Weeknights, Blake. Welcome to fabulous Las Vegas. This year, what happens in Vegas will not stay in Vegas. It will affect the entire country. Control of the United States Senate and the White House runs down the Strip. Tonight, we go off the Strip to show you how Las Vegas and how Nevada is so much more than just gambling. Beyond Reno, beyond Las Vegas, to the voters that will decide all of our future. And with that, we welcome you to the Ferris. Start with breaking news on the Ferris network on television above the Las Vegas Strip. And that breaking news is at home and abroad. Huge day that will change the presidential race now. 456 hours away from the first polls closing on election night. And every one of those hours matters to the candidates. Tonight, the coming campaign split screen is going to be striking. Donald Trump is cozying up to New York City's wealthy and elite at the Al Smith dinner. We are awaiting Kamala Harris in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Big crowd there. She skipped the most important Catholic charity event of the year and is rallying blue-collar supporters in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Also tonight, it is 2 a.m. in Tel Aviv, where earlier people took to the streets in jubil celebration, and they are celebrating a huge victory. Israel took out the mastermind behind the October 7th terror attacks. This could very well be the October surprise the Harris campaign needs. They are already trying to capitalize on pictures you are seeing right there. But first, less than 3 weeks to go in control of the White House and the Senate could be decided right here in Nevada. Polling from Emerson College shows an increasingly tight race here between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. She does have a 1 percentage point lead in the latest poll that is well within the margin of error. The Senate race, Republican Sam Brown has some ground to make up. He trails Senator Jackie Rosen by 8 points, although this is probably closer than Democrats would like. Historically, Trump outperformed his polls by 2 to 4 points. NewsNation political editor, host of The Hill Sunday, Chris Steyerwalt, is with us for his thoughts here in the Silver State. The man at the magic wall, NewsNation's Connell McShane, will show us the path to 270 that run through Nevada in just 1 minute. Chris, I want to start with you. Big picture. Republicans I talk to are awfully confident right now, almost as confident as they were with the red wave of 2022.
Yeah.
Misplaced?
Yeah, I mean, this is an extraordinarily close election. This is the closest election that we've seen since at least 2004. It is absolutely tight. And what I know that's very interesting, Kamala Harris is hustling, right? She's got Mark Cuban out on the trail. She is moving to the middle on a host of issues. She's getting former Republicans to come out with her. She is clawing and scratching for those persuadable voters, those reticent Republicans who don't want to vote for Donald Trump. Well, what is Donald Trump doing? He's talking about punishing his enemies. He's not doing the thing to try to close the deal. And I think it's reflective of an overconfidence problem that Republicans have, that they just don't think they can lose it.
Right, and the parallel would be 2016 Hillary Clinton, right? Rather, you know, she was in Iowa, he's in New York tonight. With that, send it to Connell McShane to take us through the map, because there's so much focus, Connell, on the blue wall, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Yep. And depending on how the night goes, it could be 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday morning, and we're all booking flights for Las Vegas. Why?
It's possible only 6 electoral votes, but the way things are, only 7 toss-up states. It could easily come down to the state that you two guys are broadcasting from tonight. We know overall how close the race is. In fact, it's basically 50-50 in win probability. We don't have either candidate over 270, 269 and 269. But with you guys out in Nevada, it's a good chance for us to dig into how important this state could be. It's a toss-up like 6 others. The win probability, which takes in fundamentals, how the state performs over the years and how it normally leans, is Democrat 59%, tied with Michigan for Harris's best bet among the 7 toss-up states. Polling average, though, is interesting. This was a much bigger lead now some time ago, even some weeks ago. It's been getting tighter and tighter to the point where it's basically tied, the Harris lead at 0.1%. Now, you talk about Nevada, I think demographics certainly enter the conversation, especially the Hispanic vote. 30.5% of the population in Nevada, Hispanic. Now, the voting age, they're not all of voting age. The numbers are about 1 in 5 of voting age that have an impact, and a big one on elections in the state of Nevada. But I would say forget white, Hispanic, black, Asian, Native American, and all, even male and female. The most important block of voters in Nevada, independent or nonpartisan, as they call them in the state. And that, on a registration basis, always been or for the most part, has been a lean Democrat state, has been trending more in the Republicans' favor. In other words, more registered Republicans. So the Democrats really have to take advantage of the independents, and they have to do well there with the independents. So let's quickly go back to 2020 to see how this state could be won. So here's the 2020 election, of course, won by President Biden with 306 electoral votes, including the 6 in Nevada. How do you win it? Pretty easy. Forget about the 50.1% for a moment that you see next to Biden's name. Look at the top number, just over 700,000 total votes for Biden in the state of Nevada. Like so many states, if we look at the map over here, all red in the rural areas, just a little bit of blue in the population centers, but that's pronounced in Nevada. I'm going to click on Las Vegas, where you guys are. That's Clark County. Look what happens. Again, top number, forget 53.7. Over 500,000 votes came out of Clark County. So if you're going to win Nevada, you win where you guys are standing, because that's where the people are. It brings us to our final point, which is what you brought up, Leland, and that's the electoral map. Okay, we start with 226 electoral votes for Harris and 219 for Trump in the 7 toss-ups. How would Nevada matter? Well, what if the blue wall doesn't hold and Donald Trump takes 10 in Wisconsin, takes 15 in Michigan, and takes 19 in Pennsylvania? Stirewalt will probably tell you, and he's probably right, that Harris is finished. Well, not by the math. Trump would only be at 263, and Harris would have to pull off a miracle, which would be a Sunbelt sweep. 16 in North Carolina, if those go blue, and 16 in Georgia do the same. How about 11 in Arizona, where Biden did win by 10,000 last time? There, I have to make that blue to get the math to work. You're at 263. 269 for Harris, and there, Leland, Nevada would come and play, and Harris, if she were to pull off this unlikely scenario, would love to have those 6 in her column. So we don't know what's going to happen on election night, and there are only 7 toss-up states, and easily Nevada could be very important, even with 6 electoral votes.
Conor McShane, thank you very much. Back with Mr. Stirewalt, who I would give you more than probably. I would give you most likely is right on your analysis and in your thoughts. One of the things Republicans point to over and over and over again is, yes, this is so close, but it is not really that close, because Donald Trump always overperforms his polls. So the fact that the polls are ties really means that Trump is up 5.
So is Donald Trump running better, or is he polling better? This is the question. Republicans think he's running better and that he's still going to get that extra 2 points at the end.
What do you think?
I think that it is extraordinarily unlikely that Donald Trump is going to get the kind of polling overperformance this time that he did before. Here's why. I think it's very possible this is a toss-up race. He very well might win. But the idea that Donald Trump is going to win a national popular vote majority and that he's going to smash the Electoral College and win the kind of victory that no Republicans won since 1988, I know Republicans want to think that's true, but I think that's extraordinarily unlikely. And that kind of thinking for Republicans is an invitation to disaster, because you referenced Hillary Clinton in 2016. That's what Democrats were thinking. Democrats were like, well, we can't lose. We can't lose. Republicans should be acutely aware. The person most likely to outperform their polls in this race by a substantial margin is Kamala Harris. She's the less known candidate. She's bringing different voters in. She's trying to put a new coalition in. Donald Trump, the reductive reasoning would say Donald Trump is pretty close to his ceiling. And his ceiling might be good enough, right? He's going to get 48.6 or 48.8% of the national popular vote, and that's going to be good enough to get him a bunch of electoral votes and get him very close in those states. On the other hand, Kamala Harris, if she catches the breeze at the end, she could win bigger than Joe Biden did. I would just encourage people to remember this race is extraordinarily close. We know that we've only got about 2 points worth of undecided left. That's half of what it was 4 years ago, and it's a quarter of what it was when Hillary Clinton was running. People know Donald Trump. They have their opinions about Donald Trump. I don't think there's a lot of flexibility.
Closing arguments matter, I think, would be the ... to the rest of your thought. Here is Donald Trump talking on the BD podcast about the, quote, enemy within. Take a listen.
There is a sort of a deep state, and a lot of that's people that have been there. And then there's some bad guys, there's some bad people. Then there's a radical left, which I think are more dangerous in many ways than the other countries. I really do.
All right, and Kamala Harris is hitting him over and over and over again on this. We saw that during the interview last night on Our Former Employer. Joe Biden tried to do that and knock him out of the race with threats to democracy. That was the whole movement by Joe Biden. It didn't work. That was the movement by a number of Republicans in the primary, trying to knock Donald Trump out with the threat to democracy and norms and everything else.
They soft-soaked it.
Fair enough. But either way, it is not working. Could I not turn this around and say to you, the people who are convinced that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy have already decided to vote for Kamala Harris. Therefore, this closing argument doesn't work.
So if you're Kamala Harris, you need permission to run to the middle. You need permission to be pro-Israel. You need permission from your own base. Donald Trump has permission from the Republican base
to do whatever
he wants. What's our position on abortion today? You tell me. I don't know. We're just making it up as we go along. 10% tariff, how about 20%? He can say and do anything he wants, and his base will let him go. Kamala Harris needs that permission. Donald Trump provides her that permission when he says things like, I'm going to punish the radical left in America. What she says, what Kamala Harris is saying is, okay, hippies, you don't like it when I get moderate and talk tough and side with Israel and do all these things? Well, here he is. You want this guy to win?
Okay, fair enough. But she's not tacking to the middle. We saw that yesterday. What? She's not tacking to the middle at all. Come on.
Leland Vittert. You think Kamala Harris has not moved to the middle? In 2019, she was a Medicare for all, progressive left, Bernie Sanders loving, Green New Deal enthusiast. Now she is Ms. Lethal Military, fracking is cool, Medicare for all is a bad idea. She has moved. She talked about owning a gun and how she'd blow somebody away if she came into their house. She's campaigning. She's praising Dick Cheney. Now, if you want one way to know that a Democrat is moving
to the center, okay.
Richard B. Cheney.
I understand that argument. Although she won't say who she's going to deport when it comes to illegal immigrants. She won't say that boys are not going to play on girls' sports teams.
Right.
She won't say what Republicans she would appoint to her cabinet. There are things she could say that would be real meaningful moves to the center that would change the dynamics of the race. She's not doing that.
How do politicians do this? They don't give you specifics because they say their specifics aren't ready yet. And then at
concepts of a plan.
And then at the end they say it's too late now. We can't get into it right now because, you know, the election's almost here. We're just 19 days away, so I can't really get into all that. And I think voters, look, I don't think voters put a lot of trust and confidence in what politicians promise. But what Kamala Harris is very much trying to say, and this is where Joe Biden works against her so profoundly. Joe Biden in 2020 said, I will be a moderate. And then in the first 2 years of his presidency, he was anything but that. And Kamala Harris was the hood ornament on that, right? She was the exemplar that, well, this is the progressive side of the Joe Biden administration. Now she's trying to say, okay, I know last time we told you squishy suburban moderates that we were going to be moderate, and we ended up being not. But this time, I promise, it's for real. That's a tough sale to close.
I'm looking at what we're saying on the bottom of the screen. Kamala Harris rallying in Wisconsin and Donald Trump showing up at the Al Smith dinner. The Al Smith dinner has been going on for decades, where the two presidential candidates show up. They roast each other in good fun.
Yep.
They smile, they laugh. They raise a bunch of money for Catholic charities in New York in white tie, and then they move on. We saw Barack Obama and John McCain do it. We saw Hillary Clinton. We saw Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump do it. Live pictures there of the table setting in New York. Is Kamala Harris being a little too cute by half by saying, oh, no, I must be in the battlegrounds?
No, I mean, I think this hurts her with elites who in New York who like this dinner and like this tradition and want her to do it. And it would probably be a nice thing to do if she could go and say, you know, after the election, we're all going to be friends still. And after the election, we'll just move on and get over the results. I don't think that's the election we're having. I don't think that the election that we're having is one where the combatants feel like, you know what?
This doesn't hurt her with Catholics in Pennsylvania?
I mean, the Trump campaign could certainly try to use it, but if you have to explain first to people, okay, so Al Smith ran for president in 1928. He was the first Roman Catholic. He's from New York. This is a dinner that they had, and Hillary Clinton went to it before. I don't know. I mean, it's 6 of one, half dozen the other. Campaigning in the battleground state, sucking up to rich Catholics. I don't know. We're now how many angels? How many Catholic angels can dance on the head of a pin?
I got to think about that. There's an awful lot that can happen at the Spear behind us. There's a Big Mac ad going on.
Makes me hungry, yeah.
I know, me too. There you go. Good to see you, my friend. Thank you very much. As we said, Kamala Harris speaking live in Green Bay, Wisconsin. For the first time in 20 years, Republicans have a chance here in Nevada. The split screen, me here, her in Wisconsin, shows Harris's biggest problem before Election Day. I'll explain that problem, why she may not be able to fix it when we come back. Welcome back to Las Vegas, the highly anticipated Senate debate between Jackie Rosen and Sam Brown, 3 hours away. This was not supposed to be a tight Senate race. It is tightening. Could be huge issues decided here in Nevada tonight. Both presidential candidates are out on the trail. Trump is at the Al Smith dinner in New York City. Kamala Harris is holding her 3rd rally of the day in Wisconsin. We've heard a lot recently about Harris's media buzz, but she's also ramped up her campaigning. Since September 1st, she's held 39 events, a majority of those, understandably, in the swing states. You can see there, 1 in Nevada, 5 in Arizona, 3 Wisconsin, 10 in Pennsylvania. It does not appear to be helping. Alex Shepard of the New Republic, hardly a right-wing publication, writes, Kamala Harris's momentum is gone. Harris had opportunities to break away from Trump. She squandered them. Shepard goes on further. Harris is still struggling to address the 2 biggest drags on her campaign, her role as the vice president to a remarkably unpopular leader and her inability to articulate both a larger vision and coherent set of policy positions. Part of the challenge is reaching moderate, undecided voters without, of course, angering her progressive base. Congresswoman Dina Titus knows that struggle well. She fought off a progressive primary challenge during her last run for Congress here in Nevada. We look out over your beautiful district. Thank you, ma'am. It is good to see you.
Thank you for being here.
Does Kamala Harris not have a time problem? She has 19 days. Right. Momentum is not on her side, and she cannot be in all 7 swing states at once.
Well, she's making a real effort to do that. She is all over the place and has been here a number of times, as you mentioned. I think the fact that the campaign was compressed has worked to her advantage because she had to hit the ground running. That handoff was very smooth, and then she hit all those swing states.
Agreed, the handoff was very smooth, something we have not seen in politics. And boy, in August, I was at the DNC. It seemed like she was just riding a rocket ship. And the rocket engines got turned off. That's not what you want 3 weeks before the election, is it?
Well, you don't feel that in Nevada. There's a lot of enthusiasm here. And don't forget, she's not out there by herself. A lot of surrogates are on the road.
I think isn't Barack Obama coming here?
Yeah, Bill Clinton's coming. All the members of the cabinet have been out here. Becerra was with me yesterday talking about bringing down the cost of medicine.
Okay. One issue that Democrats keep hammering home on is their support for immigrants and keep hammering Donald Trump on his plans to deport immigrants, demonizing immigrants, whatever you want to call it. We headed way out to a Mexican restaurant here, met a young woman, 22 years old, behind the bar. She is here illegally. She came across when she was 14 years old from El Salvador. And I started talking to her about politics. I thought she was going to talk to me about how terrible Donald Trump was. Instead, this was our conversation. You've heard that Donald Trump has said, I want a mass deportation of people who are here, right? Illegally. But does that worry you?
No, because I feel like there's a lot of good people here in the United States. We all work hard, to be here. So it's not, I don't think it's fair for a lot of people, but yeah.
But you still support Trump?
Yeah.
Because why?
Because he's saying he's going to do a lot of things this time, so I believe him.
And forgive me, I have to ask the question. Do you understand people who are watching this and Democrats who are saying, wait a second, Catherine, this is a guy who says he wants to deport you and people who've come across illegally and you still support him?
Like I said, there's a lot of good people here in the United States. So I don't think, if you're doing everything right, I don't think...
You don't think they're going to... You think he's going to only deport the bad people?
Yeah, it can be that.
And you're okay with that?
Yeah, I mean, if they're not being good people, then what do you expect?
Congresswoman, if she's not with you and she's with Donald Trump over economic issues, what do you do?
I think it's up to us to get that message out to that community. I have a very diverse district.
Yeah.
In one household, you'll have a dreamer, a TPS, a non-citizen, somebody with papers, and somebody who doesn't know what they are. So those are all the immigration issues. This young lady, with all due respect, is not very informed about what Donald Trump is going to do. She thinks he's going to get rid of the bad people. Well, don't we all want to get rid of the bad people? But that's only a part of the story, and so it's up to us to get that message out.
Okay, but you've been getting that message out.
You've been trying.
You've been doing television ads, and Donald Trump's numbers keep going up with people like her. And every one of the servers in that restaurant, all Latino, some who came here illegally, and who are now citizens, they are all supporting Donald Trump because of economic issues. They said, we were better off 4 years ago than we are now. How do you fight that?
Well, they have a very short memory. Look out here at the Strip. The Strip was closed down under Donald Trump.
Oh, you can't blame him. Come on.
Well, you can certainly talk about the difference then and now if you want to say, were you better off then? People are working now. People are doing better. Unemployment's come down from 35% to about 5%. So you can't use this one young lady who's a server in this one restaurant who's owned by a Republican. You've got to keep that in mind. There may be a little pressure there as indicative of the Hispanic community. There's a big...
So you're not worried you're losing Latinos?
We worry about everything in Nevada. It's always going to be a close race. We knock every door, make every phone call. It's difficult to poll here. We don't take anything for granted. But I think the numbers are going our way.
Okay. All right. It is great to see you. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Thank you for welcoming us to your city. We appreciate it. Here in Nevada, a battle has broken out around a topic that the Wall Street Journal calls the sleeper issue in the 2024 election. You haven't heard about it, but it could change everything, both here and across the country. What that is when we come back.
Okay.
Great. Tomorrow, there was no taxes on tips. What would that mean for you financially?
I would be not just from paycheck to paycheck. I would actually be able to save up more money and travel more.
Welcome back to Las Vegas. That was a server here hopeful about the promise of no taxes on tips. She says she trusts Donald Trump more to deliver on that. It is maybe not the issue, but the only issue important in the hospitality industry. That is the top industry in Nevada. The servers, the bartenders, casino workers, the cleaners, and so many more. But perhaps one of the biggest issues in the state right now is something that you're not talking about. The University of Nevada Reno women's volleyball team refused to play against a biological man. Nevada Republican Senate candidate Sam Brown showed up to support the Lady Wolfpack team in another game of theirs, along with former representative and Trump campaign surrogate Tulsi Gabbard. Sam Brown, running for Senate, called their refusal to play against a trans athlete a matter of safety.
Just won. They didn't just win a game, though. They are winning on the issue of protecting women's sports. I'm so proud of them right now. This is a matter of safety, fairness, and privacy. These women are leading not only for themselves, but for future women's sports.
For Democrats, this is a national problem. Wall Street Journal calls the transgender sports issue a sleeper issue. This isn't bigotry. For most Americans, it's a matter of fairness, as well as the equal opportunity for women in sports enshrined in Title IX. Not long ago, most Democrats believed in that principle. These days, the hard edge of the transgender movement has dictated that its view of gender must be imposed nationwide. Some Democrats have towed the line. With us now, Gabby Birnbaum, reporter for the Nevada Independent, Jessica Hill, politics reporter for the Las Vegas Review-Journal. Ladies, welcome both of you. Thank you very much. Jessica, this will come up at the debate tonight, I think, undoubtedly. National issue, locally now a hot topic. Does this crystallize a culture issue now that Sam Brown can capitalize on?
You know, I think it remains to be seen. We know just from the polls that the economy, particularly the housing crisis, continue to be top issues for Nevada voters. We're not seeing a lot of cultural war issues being polled as big issues, but with this in the news, it could become a bigger issue with the last 3 weeks of the election.
Debbie, what do we make that on the margins, it's sometimes hard to pick up culture issues in polling, but it's oftentimes very easy to see the anger or the feelings that people have on the streets.
I think here's what's happening. Sam Brown, right, is polling behind Donald Trump. He's trying to think of a way, how can I consolidate Republican voters? And, you know, a cultural war issue like this might be one. Look, if women's volleyball games decided elections, maybe I should have played it in high school.
Interesting, okay.
You know, I think, yeah, I agree with Jessica, remains to be seen.
All right. I think it's very interesting what you said, and this is one of a number of Senate seats that is trailing behind Donald Trump, but is catching up in a way that Democrats did not think it was going to be. This issue of no taxes on tips started literally right here with Donald Trump. Take a listen.
For those hotel workers and people that get tips, you're going to be very happy, because when I get to office, we are going to not charge taxes on tips, people making tips.
And eliminate taxes on tips for service and hospitality workers.
All right, there was about 2 months between that, from when Donald Trump announced it here to when Kamala Harris announced it here. Gabby, every one of the hospitality workers we talked to today said they trust Donald Trump more to deliver on that promise than they trust Kamala Harris. Why do you think that is?
I mean, I think it was absolutely a smart play by him. This is an issue that is a big deal here.
Is the fact that he came out first on it sort of means he owns it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he was the first one to start talking about it. I mean, I will say, you know, groups like the Culinary Union have been advocating for various tip reforms, including ending taxes, for years. It's not something that's, you know, a new idea. But him bringing it up, I think it was a smart play. He knows he's not going to get union leadership, of course, but rank and file union households, that's a group that he wants to improve his margins with, and I think this was a smart play to do it.
Jessica, we're seeing that across the country, right? This break between union leadership and union households. Is there any way the unions can win that back here?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a chance. You know, the Culinary Union is going hard with door-to-door knocking. They have
all for Kamala Harris.
For Kamala Harris. But what's interesting also is down ballot races. They've particularly, you know, historically have gone Democrat, but they have endorsed some Republicans down the ballot, particularly in the legislative races. So it could go either way, where some candidates are, you know, going toward Donald Trump and some are going toward Kamala Harris.
We're going to show live pictures. You've got Kamala Harris in Pennsylvania, which is the linchpin. If she loses Pennsylvania, it is very difficult for her to get the math to work, which in a way makes it that Nevada somehow becomes not forgotten, but it becomes a danger for her, because there's a world in which she wins Pennsylvania because she's been there so much, but loses Nevada because she hasn't, and therefore loses the presidency because she hasn't. Are you all surprised, or I should say, are Democrats surprised by how tight things have become here?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think when you look at a lot of the trends with Nevada, for example, the level of college education here, the percent of residents who are college educated, more resembles a Kentucky, you know, a traditional red state. I think there are a lot of trends that have broken Republicans' way demographically. Democrats traditionally have been the better organized party, and I think they've pulled out a lot of close victories that maybe, you know, in another state they wouldn't have because of the organization of the state party. And I think they know that this is an uphill fight. You know, you'll hear them say things like, we're behind. Maybe that's, you know, to raise money. Maybe they truly think that. But I think most people do expect it'll be close. Biden won by 2.5, Clinton won by 2.5.
Right. I think both parties are very aware that it's a very close race.
You think about it, Jessica, when anybody who's not from out here looks at Las Vegas, we think of this, right? And Connell made a great point that the urban areas of Nevada, Reno, and Las Vegas make up an immense majority, almost 85% of the votes in the electorate. But there's issues beyond just the Las Vegas Strip that are defining this election, namely immigration. The Latino vote, and I keep coming back to this, we keep talking to Latinos who are in favor of Donald Trump. Democrats don't seem to have an argument to fix that.
I think we're seeing Vice President Harris really firm up that stance as she gets closer to Election Day. You know, she's firmed up, gotten more, you know, specifics on her policies, but the Republicans definitely had a head start on that issue.
Yeah, and especially on the border. Ladies, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Israel killed the mastermind of the October 7th attacks and the leader of Hamas today. They defied both Kamala Harris and President Biden to do it. How Israel not listening is the best thing that ever happened to Kamala Harris when we come back. In the streets today, their military just killed the leader of Hamas and the mastermind of the October 7th attacks. This completely changes the power dynamic in the Middle East. Could be the best thing that has happened to Kamala Harris and Joe Biden in months. The Israeli Defense Forces defied Kamala Harris and continued their assault on the Gaza city of Rafah for weeks upon weeks. An infantry platoon came across 3 Hamas fighters and opened fire. They killed Yahya Sinwar. This is drone video of them going to find Yahya Sinwar. That's the man sitting right there on the chair before taking him out. The Israel-Hamas issue has been an anchor around Kamala Harris's neck and campaign. Today was the first time she could feel herself, and you could hear it in her voice, and we're going to play that sound for you, freed from that albatross.
This moment gives us an opportunity to finally end the war in Gaza. And it must end such that Israel is secure, the hostages are released, the suffering in Gaza ends, and the Palestinian people can realize their right to dignity, security, freedom, and self-determination.
Now I'll tell you what she didn't say, which is that Iran, who pulls all of the strings in Gaza, can give Harris a huge win. Because if they push Hamas and Hamas gives up the hostages and surrenders or says they'll lay down their weapons, whatever it is, Harris and Biden will declare victory. It could totally change the race. Of course, the world is still a very dangerous place. Regardless, Chinese naval ships are circling Taiwan in a dress rehearsal to invade. That's been going on for a few days. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky says he has evidence that North Korea could send up to 10,000 troops to Ukraine to fight for Russia. There is evidence that those troops are already there. And the U.S. just sent B-2 stealth bombers from Whitmer Air Force Base in Missouri halfway around the world to bomb Iranian militia sites in Yemen. Our friend George Will encapsulated this in his column, World War III is already underway. Not that Harris or Trump has noticed. The U.S. presidential campaign is in what reckless disregard looks like. Neither nominee has given any evidence of awareness, let alone serious thinking about the growing global conflagration. NewsNation senior political contributor, a man with a far more extensive vocabulary than I do, George Will, is with us now. George, good to see you as always. Is it that the American people aren't focused on it, therefore our leaders aren't talking about it, or our leaders aren't talking about it, so the American people aren't focused on it?
It's both. I think the American people are not focused on it. The American people and candidates in all the states say the same thing. They're concerned with inflation, they're concerned with immigration, and increasingly, as you said in an earlier segment, about the issue of transgender athletes. But beyond that, the American people usually do not want to talk about foreign policy. That's where leadership comes in. It's where Franklin Roosevelt took a leadership to try and nudge an isolationist country into confronting the danger of the axis of its day, Japan, Italy, and Germany. Today we have another axis, that is four nations, Iran, North Korea, Russia, and China, acting in concert to sow chaos around the world. And it is a measure of the fact that our leaders are failing, that they won't talk about this.
To be fair, Donald Trump talks a little bit about being on the brink of World War III. I've heard that in his stump speeches. Perhaps you're saying that both candidates are a little bit like the French revolutionary, sitting drinking coffee on the Champs-Élysées, watches a crowd and says, I've got to figure out where the crowd's going so I can lead them. With that in mind, Kamala Harris is stuck between two crowds, right? The pro-Israel crowd of the Democratic Party and of moderate America, and the pro-Hamas crowd on the far left of the Democratic Party. Iran can solve that problem for her now, especially with Sinwar dead. Will they?
I doubt that they will. And in fact, there'll be a slight surge of optimism. And you heard it from in the Harris clip you just showed, where she'll say, now is a good time, this man is gone, we can settle things. It's not going to make a particle of difference, Leland. Leland, you know much more about the Middle East than I. You lived there. You must, I'm sure you must think that the events there and situations there are not that plastic. These leaders will be replaced. Now, the person who replaces these leaders has to know now, after the sabotage pagers and the targeted killings, that no one leading these organizations, Hezbollah or Hamas, is safe, is beyond the reach of Israel. But the hostages are not coming out, and Israel is not going to stop by November 5th, trust me. They're going to continue, as we continued in World War II, to get unconditional surrender.
Look, Benjamin Netanyahu has played this masterfully. He has defied everyone, including Kamala Harris, who kept saying, don't go into Rafah. He went into Rafah. The dynamic for the United States has changed, or at least for Kamala Harris has changed, right? Does she not now face perhaps even more pressure from the left to say, look, you got your man, let's have a deal? And I'm wondering how you see this purely from the lens of the election. Common sense would tell you that Kamala Harris is now becoming a little bit desperate on this issue. How does she get out of it? And why wouldn't Iran, who would far prefer Kamala Harris, give her an olive branch, or at least be helpful for the next 3 weeks?
I'm not sure Iran makes that distinction that they prefer her to Trump. They might marginally, but remember, we're the great Satan. And there's big Satans and little Satans, Trump and Harris. I don't think they think that way in their Manichaean view of the world. Second, there is, we simply have to say this, there is an anti-Israel, anti-Zionist, and frankly, anti-Semitic cohort within the progressive wing of the party, to which, for most of her political career, she has been responsive. And she can't openly side with them, but she has to be aware. She also knows that in the state of Michigan, where I just was, which she cannot afford to lose, there are hundreds of thousands of Michiganders, American citizens of Middle Eastern origin, harboring some form of sympathy for Hamas.
Yep.
And if they decide not to vote, she'll lose Michigan.
And not only Hamas, but Hezbollah as well. You're more generous. I say there is a pro-Hamas, pro-Hezbollah part of the progressive wing of the Democratic Party. Mr. Will, I would encourage anybody to read your column. It is linked to in War Notes, which is our newsletter this morning. Sobering, but very important, sir. It's good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Yeah. 30% of Nevada voters identify as Latinos, and every Latino we talk to say they are supporting Donald Trump. Why even one illegal immigrant says she wishes she could vote for Trump.
You can tell when somebody's a little bit more genuine. I think that's what my dad liked about Trump, that, you know, Trump was like, he did take the time still to talk to him, to like be like, you're gonna get a lot of hate for this, and that's very brave.
Has that happened?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, he's gotten emails. He's gotten death threats.
Your dad has?
Oh, yeah.
Part of our conversation with Celeste Barhars. She and her father run 5 Mexican restaurants. He's endorsed Donald Trump. You can see the anger at a lot of Latinos here in the state of Nevada who support Donald Trump. That is real. Later tonight, pivotal Nevada Senate debate broadcast live on NewsNation. That is why we are here. It is a race that could decide control of the Senate. Of course, Nevada could also decide control of the White House. Jesus Marquez, Trump campaign surrogate, is with us. Nice to see you. Thank you very much. I looked up the polls just in terms of how they are. 2016, 2020. Democrats keep losing Hispanic support. 2024, it has gotten even worse for Democrats. What's going on here?
Well, a big shift is going on right here. As you said before.
Is this sort of a working class shift rather than a racial shift?
I believe so. It is a working class, and the Latinos are a majority working class, right? And you saw somebody that in a bar that is pro-Trump, but then what do you have? You got on the other side a Democrat congresswoman that says, with all due respect, she doesn't know what she's talking about. I think that's insulting to the Latinos.
This is the Democratic congresswoman from this district we had on earlier.
Exactly.
We interviewed a woman who was here illegally, has working papers. and said if I could vote for Trump, I would, because of the economic issues.
And exactly. And what did she do? She dismisses her. And that's the problem. You know, Democrats have had the Latino vote in the pocket for so many years that they lost it. They losing it little by little. You know, if you look at the numbers, Kamala Harris is underperforming Democrats in the past, from Hillary Clinton to Obama. She's only winning by 17 points with the Latino vote, and Donald Trump is just gaining ground.
So that's Kamala Harris on the stump. Green Bay, Wisconsin. I think I can best articulate, if you will, the Democratic position, not perhaps with what Kamala Harris has said, but with what Geraldo Rivera said to me a couple of nights ago on television. Take a listen.
It's horrifying. I don't know how any Latino person of any self-esteem, any self-respect would be in favor of.
You may not know about it, Geraldo, but more Latinos are
poisoning the blood of the country.
Okay. What I can't figure out is how you expect by Democrats to convince people by insulting them.
Exactly. See, what's happening here is that they had the Latino vote in the pocket for so many years, for decades, that now when
is that going to change Nevada?
Well, yeah, exactly. When they see Latinos shifting over to Donald Trump, they don't like that, so they start insulting. But you know, if you go to the policies for the, you know, here in Las Vegas, the unaffordability of home, of housing, the food, everything is so expensive that it's robbing Latinos out of the American dream. That's what we are here for. To begin with, we're here for the American dream, and we cannot achieve it because of the inflation, high costs, and that is what's killing the Democrats at the moment.
All right, I'll give you the last 15 seconds. Sam Brown is trailing Donald Trump, though, a Republican, by 5 points. Is this a Donald Trump thing or a Republican thing?
Well, I believe that once we get into the polls, I think that Sam Brown's going to start doing better, and at the end of the day, Donald Trump's going to carry the state for Brown and other people.
All right. Well, we've got 19 days until we figure it out. It's really nice to see you. Thank you very much. No taxes on tips started here in Las Vegas, Nevada, with Donald Trump back in June. He owns that issue. Sam Brown, the Republican challenger for Senate, is trying to pick up the baton on that issue and so many more. Right now, 2 hours away from the big Senate debate in Nevada. The Senate matters for Supreme Court justices, for cabinet secretaries, and so much more. I'll see you tomorrow night. Here's Chris.